Shalom, friends, and welcome back to Chapter 7 on Window on Mount Zion. This is the start of a very intense chapter, which has been divided into a few parts. And part 1 we will begin this time, and the heading of the chapter is 1967. The approach of war. All through the month of May 1967, the storm clouds darkened on the horizon. Egypt was massing troops on the border and building up a formidable military force ready for attack. Israel was preparing to defend herself. Each day the situation became more serious. All our able-bodied men were being called up, and the roads were filled with military vehicles carrying soldiers and equipment. Many more soldiers were being posted to Mount Zion, and every corner was inspected as plans for its defense went ahead. It was dangerous to linger near the border at night. The local commander of the military post and some of his soldiers dropped in often for a drink and a chat. Also, our Nachal soldiers were frequently with us. We shared the dangers lurking in the darkness, and our tomorrow held in the close hand of the unknown. The atmosphere was charged with tense expectancy and a fear which we hid or tried to reject. An unusual quality had been added to our lives. Conversations, although bravely optimistic, were often tinged with anxiety. Everything seemed to be under a spell. The dark clouds cast dark shadows, and the shadows formed the dreaded word war. War was threatening our beloved land. War was poking its ugly fingers into every home and opening its grasping hand. Was it really possible that we were on the brink of war? It all seemed so unreal, like some nightmarish dream. But homes were being emptied of sons, fathers, brothers, husbands, who one by one had been called to military duty. The whole of Jerusalem seemed to be on the alert. Through my window I saw great lorries spilling sand into Garden Square, where buses were now no longer allowed. Other vehicles were depositing hundreds of small sacks beside the mound of sand. Each day, school children and other youth were filling the sandbags and piling them up ready to be used to reinforce the windows of the military post, the Nachal quarters, and to protect other buildings on Mount Zion. The feeling of the imminence of war intensified each day, and when the United Nations forces left Gaza at Nasser's request, we realized the seriousness of our position. Raymond, a Christian friend from England, who'd been with us for 6 weeks, was due to return to London on June the 15th. We tried to persuade him to leave before the trouble started. It would be wiser for you to return now, we told him. Your family is dependent on you, and you should also consider your responsibility to your job. He was silent and thoughtful. War could start at any moment, and no one can predict how long it will be before you can return to your family or what might happen under such circumstances. Raymond was silent for a long time before he replied. I'd never feel at peace with myself if I left now. And again he paused. I came to Israel because I felt I had a command from above to come to Jerusalem. I'll wait now for the command to leave. My family will understand. His decision was made, and the next day he received a letter from his family telling him not to leave Mount Zion at this time, that they would manage without him if he could not return, and they too would feel that they were sharing in Israel's destiny. Thursday, June the 1st. The month began with a great movement of people, citizens of other nations who had been advised to leave, and Israelis abroad who were hurrying to return. Our friend Gilbert, the Reform rabbi in the States, had been to Israel with his family and had been there for 2 months. He came to say goodbye to us. He was taking his family back home. "The situation is very serious," he said. "It seems that war is inevitable." He was very depressed. "And when all the Arab countries around us come against us, intending to destroy us completely, what chance have we got?" Gloom and pessimism enveloped him in a dark aura. "I also believe that war is on our doorstep," I replied. "But I would ask what chance the Arabs have when they come to fight against Israel. But look at their strength and their numbers, and we are surrounded by them." If you see the map here, this was the map of Israel, and she was being attacked from Egypt in the south, in the left-hand corner, and by Jordan, who joined in a pact with Nasser in Egypt, and Syria from the north. But in the 67 war, Israel reclaimed both the Sinai Peninsula and the West Bank and the Golan Heights. They all were reclaimed. The West Bank from Jordan, the Golan Heights from Syria, and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, along with the Gaza Strip, which was in Egyptian hands. So there you can see Israel, as usual, was surrounded by the Arab enemies, and they were all planning to attack at the same time. "Do you think, Gilbert," Albert broke in, "that we've been brought back to our land after nearly 2,000 years of dispersion, only to be destroyed by our neighbors? I cannot believe that God gave us a state of Israel for that purpose." "I agree with Albert," I said. "You know the biblical history of our people. You know what befalls the enemies of Israel who attempt to foil the plan of God." But Gilbert was not comforted. I reminded him of the Bible account, where it is written, "When the Syrians came in great strength against Israel, and the servant of Elisha, the man of God, saw the great host that came by night and compassed the city about, he said to Elisha, 'Alas, my master, how shall we do?'" I can imagine, Gilbert, that he felt as depressed as you do today. But Elisha answered, "Fear not, they that be with us are more than they that be with them." I believe that at this time also, when we are compelled to meet the enemy in battle, whose hosts of the Lord will be on our side, those hosts of the Lord will be on our side with our armies, and we need have no fear. We will have the victory and see some great miracles. "You are an incorrigible dreamer," Gilbert replied. "You live in a visionary world of miracles, but I see facts and realities, and you cannot ignore facts." "Perhaps my dreams and visions are the realities," I answered, "and your facts and realities are but edifices erected on crumbling foundations." As he was about to leave, a commander and some of his men came to tell us that we should prepare to be evacuated from Mount Zion at once. "You can't possibly remain in this house exposed to the enemy on nearly all sides. Look down at those Arab soldiers right now." "We do not want to leave Mount Zion," I said. "But you've no protection here, and the enemy is only a few yards away. Go to the city where there are shelters." Albert said quietly, "We have the best protection and the best shelter." "Where?" asked the commander in surprise. Albert looked upwards. "Above us," he replied. "The Almighty can protect us here just as well as in the city." "I do not think that is very sensible," the commander said, and began to look around the house for a safe place. Finally he said, "No, you can't stay in this house. If you're foolish enough to remain on Mount Zion and the shooting starts, you must go into the Palumbo Gallery at the back of the house. That at least affords a little protection. Gilbert embraced us in silence, and he left. Yona, living above the gallery, was also very reluctant to leave Mount Zion, but she had been persuaded to go and stay with relatives in the city for little Polita's sake. That night we received a cable from Christian friends in Germany, a mother and her married son, saying they would be arriving the following day. That astonished us. Why come at this dangerous time? Did they not know the seriousness of the situation? We cabled back, unwise to come now. Friday, June the 2nd. Tired after a difficult journey, but radiating love and thankfulness, our friends from Germany arrived. They embraced us warmly. Your cable could not stop us. We just wanted to clasp your hands in friendship and assure you of our unity and prayers for you and for Israel when you face the trials of war. Didn't you know that war might start at any moment and you may not be able to return to your family? Yes, they replied, but we were prepared to take this risk if we could only get on a plane. Albert and I were overwhelmed. There was only one plane from Zurich. They told us that Lida Airport was closed to all but military planes, and this was only taking personnel back to Israel. They thought we were quite mad even to think of going to Israel. Then how did you get here? God helped us, and finally they consented to take us. We are so thankful we can see you again and stand on the soil of Israel at this time. We can be with you for 24 hours. A plane will take us back tomorrow night. Those 24 hours were filled with constant reminders of the possible ordeal which would confront us at any moment. Soldiers came in to see which windows needed the protection of sandbags. I would rather not have any sandbags, I said. Then get paper strips to paste on all the windows, they replied. They brought me rolls of narrow strips of paper to protect the glass from splintering. I won't need them, I said. Why not? Because I believe in other protection. We brought up some camp beds from the cellar. Soldiers were in and out of the house all day. You must not think of sleeping in this house if trouble starts, we were told. Take the beds into the Palumbo gallery now. We folded up the beds and sleeping bags and took them into the gallery. Shabbat Eve, June the 2nd. At sunset, Albert joined the usual little congregation assembled on the roof of King David's tomb for the Sabbath evening service. The faithful Rabbi Uri and some of the Nachal boys and 2 other soldiers. Rabbi Uri for the first time seemed depressed, and as he stood facing the temple area in the old city, said to Albert, "Again we have to fight our enemies. When will they leave us in peace?" Albert answered cheerfully, "Next Friday we will be at the Kotel. We will all be at the Western Wall." The soldiers smiled at this incredible thought. "May the Almighty grant us this," Rabbi Uri said sadly. "How long have we waited for that day, and how much longer must we wait?" His voice was like a cry ascending to the Creator. The Sabbath came June the 3rd. 24 hours had passed, and the time had come for our friends to depart and return to Germany. They had brought us joy and given us encouragement. The spirit of love and friendship remained the only reality which could not be shaken by events. It was like a deep well from which one could draw strength to face the unknown. We were relieved, however, to see their plane airborne. It could so easily have been otherwise. What experiences lay before us before we could clasp their hands again. Sunday, June the 4th. Danny, our Nachal friend, came in for a few minutes. He was in full battle dress, rifle over his shoulder and helmet covered with leafy twigs. "We have to be prepared for attack by the Jordanians at any moment," he said. "Many people do not believe that Jordan will fight us. Israel has told King Hussein that we will not do anything to them if they do not attack us. It may be quiet here on our border. In any case, take provisions and all that you need into the gallery. It's better that you should be there and not in the house in case of any surprises." Another Nachal soldier came to call him, and they walked away in deep and serious conversation. Well, that is the end of part 1 of chapter 7, and just on the brink of war. Now, in case some might be interested, there'll be a couple of minutes extra here just to describe how to recognize some of the different brigades in the Israeli Defense Force, the IDF. You will see the Nachal soldiers feature a lot. They're there on Mount Zion, but it would be interesting to see some of the different berets that they wear and be able to recognize them by their colors. Now, in the diagram, you can see if you go from the top left-hand side, the bright blue, when you see bright blue berets, those are the military police. It's a very bright blue, and they stand out in the event of any incidents or rioting, or they are there. The next one is the bright darker green, and those are the border police. So they're the ones who patrol the borders of Israel to keep the peace there, and often have to face incursions by terrorists. Now, number 3 is the lovely purple, the bright purple beret, and those are worn by the Givati Brigade, which are top elite brigade in Israel, the Givati, and you will recognize them by the purple. And then, of course, the next one are the brown berets, and they are of the also very top and well-known Golani Brigade, who are in the forefront of any battle, as we've just seen in the battle with Gaza, that the Golani are the first to go in. Then back to the diagram, we have the 5th one at the top on the right is the dark gray, and those are worn by the Air Force, members of the Israeli Air Force. The next row to the left, you have the khaki, or khaki as you say in the States, and they are the Combat Intelligence Force. The light gray next to that one are worn by the Engineering Corps. So any time you see a gray beret, it's the Engineering Corps. The next are the navy blue, which are worn by the Sea Force, the Israeli Navy. And next to that, you see a sort of dark green, olive green color. Those are worn by the Directorate of Military Intelligence. So those are quite high ranking, the olive green. The next one is, well, before we go to the next one, which is the green, which is the regular one, you'll notice on the bottom row up to the left are the bright turquoise. They really stand out, and those are the artillery. So those are the men on the ground that go in the artillery, wear the bright turquoise. But the regular IDF soldiers wear the green, which we can see a picture of the green berets of these. That's a lovely picture with a group of the soldiers on the bottom, and 2 of the soldiers. You can see the very distinctive green berets. Those are the regular soldiers of the IDF. The orange berets are worn by the Home Command. here I bumped into three of the girls, soldiers in the shuk, the market, getting ready for Shabbat. And they were so sweet, but I didn't know what the orange berets signified. You can see the girls on the left, they tuck them into the lapels on their shirts, but the orange belonged to the home guard, the home front command. And they're very important if there's any, God forbid, any terrorist attack or riot, or they're there to protect the civilians and the citizens on the home front. The light green, if we see the next picture, there you can see a group of soldiers praying at the wall. Now, if you remember from the left, you see the brown berets of the Golani Brigade. We'll come to the red one in the center next, but there you see the purple of the Givati Brigade, and the very right-hand side, the light green, actually belongs to the Nachal soldiers. So all the soldiers that Pauline and Albert were hosting on Mount Zion, many of them were with the light green berets of the Nachal Brigade. And finally, the red that you see in the center, that belongs to the Paratroopers Brigade, and they are very, very elite. They also feature in our story coming up in the next few chapters of the Six-Day War, because it was the paratroopers with the red berets who actually liberated Jerusalem. They came in and were able to break into the city and recapture the Western Wall. And here you see a very famous person today in Israel. He is the commander-in-chief of the Israel Defense Force. His name is Benny Gantz, and he has been an excellent and outstanding commander. He is tough, but he has a very soft heart and has done a lot to spend time with the soldiers and comforting the wounded, but is a very good strategist as well as the commander of the Israel Defense Force. So that's where we will stop for today, and thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you for part 2 of chapter 7 as the Six-Day War unfolds. Shalom from Jerusalem. Bye.